everybody? This is Dario Hunt from Living Life Fearless, and I'm back with the reaction to Season 4 of Vikings. 4 years ago, the History Channel released what would become one of my favorite go-to shows. I knew nothing about the show or Vikings in general, but I've always been intrigued by the mythos, and I assumed since it was the History Channel, it'd be more of a historical drama than an actual series. But I was pleasantly surprised, to say the least, by what they were able to put together. I've been a fan ever since, and I was excited to see where Season 4 would go as the story of Ragnar started to come to a head. By Season 4, Ragnar has already risen to power as king and has just returned from his biggest accomplishment yet, the raiding of Paris, which was fucking awesome, by the way. It pushed him to the brink of death, but it made him a legend amongst his people and infamous to the rest of the world. Season 4 is pretty much all about his legacy, the people around him, and especially his kids who have just started to come into their own. I was a bit disappointed as this season was by far the weakest storyline out of all the season. It felt really rushed and there were huge jumps in time and logic just to fit everything in. They've always heavily featured other characters, but Ragnar was always still the center point. In this season, however, they spent so much time on the other characters and their divergent storylines that the season as a whole just feels extremely disjointed. Not to mention that none of the other characters are as layered or as interesting as Ragnar, which left me feeling bored often. They've really tried to establish Ivar as a focal point this season, and while he's interesting in the way that he's so unpredictable, he's often so over the top that his one trick starts to lose its appeal. One thing that Vikings does do better than almost any other basic cable show out there is in their large scale battles. They put you right into the mix and there's a gritty realism to the sequence that make them feel so believable. None of this season's big set pieces were nearly as breathtaking as last season's assault on Paris, but they were still extremely well executed and there was more than enough action to keep me satisfied. They also keep up with their extremely high level world building, from the clothes to the buildings to the landscapes to the way they interact. It all feels extremely believable and a close approximation of what the times probably were like. Travis Fimmel as Ragnar Lothbrok is fantastic as usual, and in Season 4 he dials Ragnar's internal conflict up to 11. I was glad to see that my other favorite from the show, Lagertha, played by Catherine Rennick, was given a lot to do this season, and she continued to be a very strong presence that rivaled Ragnar. She had some really satisfying payoffs this season. I just wish that the two of them had more screen time together, as they had the best chemistry on the show by far. Loki was surprisingly subdued this season, and Rollo didn't get a whole lot of spotlight either. Bjorn continues to be mostly likable, if not a bit boring, and the rest of Ragnar's sons outside of Ivar are pretty much not interesting at all as characters, even though they are given more screen time this season. I love the world of Vikings, and their action set pieces are still some of the best out, but after some huge events in Season 4, I struggle to see it continuing to keep my interest. Now, I am about to go into full-on spoiler territory for Season 4, so if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want things to spoil, I suggest you leave this video now. I'm going to give you about 5 seconds. Okay. Ragnar Lothbrok fucking dies. I could feel that this was coming, and it was probably historically accurate, but it was still a huge fucking moment, and one that has me a bit worried for the future, as his character was by far the best thing about this show. They whittled his character so much down this season that there was really nowhere left for him to go but to kill him. But his death scene was one of the most memorable moments from any show this past year, and he did regain a bit of himself by the way he faced his death. It was brutal, and it was given the proper attention a death like this should get. And the fallout from his death was enormous. His son swept through England, killing both King Egbert and King Aela. I'm still surprised they're allowed to show as much as they do on cable. The death toll was extremely high this season, as long-running characters like Helga, Queen Aslog, and Athelstan all met their ends as well. Goddamn, Lagertha can hold a grudge, can't she? She just couldn't wait to overthrow and kill Aslog for taking Ragnar in the first place. I never liked that character, But I do hope this doesn't really come back to Hunter because I really like Agatha as a character. Ivar finally snapped and killed his brother Sigurd. I knew this was only a matter of time, and the fallout from it should make for an interesting watch next season, at least for the first few episodes. Ironically, Ivar seems to be most like his father Ragnar. His cunning on the battlefield will surely see him rise up in prominence, and it's when he's been at his most interesting as a character. They teased their next big bad opponent for next year. It seemed like some warrior priest, so it should be an interesting matchup. There was a ton more I could talk about, but if there are any other major spoilers I might have missed, let me know in the comments below, and as always, be careful with your spoilers. Have you seen season 4 of Vikings? What did you think about it? Do you think it was their weakest season out of all of them, like I did? Are you optimistic for the next seasons following this season's huge events? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to head over to Living Life Fearless and leave your own ratings and reactions for the season. And if you want to rock any of the gear that we have in our videos, like this and this, head over to the website and check out our store.